Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today, I thought we would take a little experimental journey and answer one of the most common questions I'm getting. So, a common question I've been getting lately is, how do I get great results foiling on vellum? And so I'm going to address that with you today. And I've pulled out several hot foil plates from Pinkfresh Studio. I'm going to use a couple of these, as well as my favorite vellum. Now, I have the vellum cut down into 5.5 by 8.5 inch pieces. This is a 40-pound weight vellum. So it's a little thicker than some of the vellums that are out there on the market. And this particular one is from the Essentials by Ellen line. It's a nice smooth vellum, but it's not so light that it's tissue paper-like, if that makes sense. And I thought I would give you a look at some of the hot foil cover plates that I pulled out from Pinkfresh Studio to kind of experiment with today. Now, in addition, I'm going to be focusing on 3 foils here. And the champagne foil, which is from Spellbinders, is my tried and true go-to favorite. I love the color, but I'm also going to kind of be experimenting and showing you results with both the Aura and the Prism foil from Spellbinders as well. So I'm using the Gemini foil press today, but what I want to share with you is that everything that I'm sharing is really principle based. So if you're using the Glimmer hot foil system, you're going to find some value in this video as well. This just happens to be my preferred machine, and I'm starting by preheating it, and I have it on the medium setting. Now on a Glimmer, you don't have different heat settings, so you're just going to turn that on. And while this is heating up, I'm going to go ahead and just put my Peony print hot foil plate here and let it warm up on the platform as it warms. Now I'm going to start out with the champagne foil because I know I get great results on all mediums with the champagne foil. And I'm going to add my vellum right on top of that to the sandwich and cover it with the shim that comes with my foil press. So you would stack it up just the same for the Glimmer with your foil and then your vellum and then your 2 shims that come with the Glimmer. Now I set my timer, and then once my timer ran out, I removed the platform from the base and I ran it through my Gemini Junior. Now I'm going to lift up and I'm going to reveal the results to you. Now I'm looking at this and I already know I didn't get good results. And I know that it's a pressure issue at this point because I can tell by the way the foil looks on the surface of the vellum. Now, these aren't horrible results, but when you look at the actual kind of scrap piece of foil, you can see areas where not all the foil got pressed onto the vellum. So I'm going to try this again, and I'm just kind of dialing in my pressure here. So I've started with my foil face down onto my hot foil plate. I'm adding my vellum on top of that, and this time I'm going to add a single shim. Now the shim that I'm using here is made from some Hammermill 100-pound cardstock, and I'm going to add that to my sandwich, add my shim on top, and then I'm going to set my timer. Now I'm using about a minute on this. As I mentioned before, on the Glimmer, you're just going to hit the timer button, and when it's done, you can run it through your Spellbinders Platinum 6. So I've run that through my Gemini Junior, and I'm looking at this and I know I got better pressure. I can see by the way that it's really pressed kind of down into the vellum that I got better results. And look at this, absolutely perfect results on this vellum. So this tells me that I have my pressure and my heat dialed in for vellum. Now I'm going to switch up the foil and see what kind of results I get. And I think that as we go through this video is kind of more of an exploration. You're going to see that everything is a little bit trial and error at times. And some foils just work better on certain mediums than they do on others. So now I'm switching to the Prism hot foil. This is kind of a silver holographic, doing the same exact sandwich because I know that that heat and that pressure are perfect for the vellum. And then I'm going to just set my timer, run it through my Gemini Junior, and look, perfect results. Now, when I'm experimenting on a paper that maybe I haven't used before, or I haven't used it a lot, I start with a foil that I know I get great results with every time. And that's why I started with the champagne foil on this vellum. And then I'm moving into some of the other specialty foils that I have in my stash that I like to use. I'm switching up my plate here just to make sure that this kind of formula for heat and pressure is going to work with all of my plates, because sometimes there might be a tiny bit of variance between plates. So I'm just going to kind of test that out. And I'm starting with my tried and true champagne foil. I'm doing everything the same. So a single cardstock shim, my timer's set to 1 minute. I have the same exact foil. And look at this, I got great results. So I know I kind of have my pressure and my heat dialed in for this plate as well, which tells me it's probably going to be my formula for all of my plates. Now here's where it gets interesting. I switched out to the Aura foil as well, which is kind of the gold holographic version from Spellbinders. And I'm doing everything the exact same way. Foil onto the plate, vellum, a single cardstock shim, and then the shim that comes with my foil press. Timer set to 1 minute. Once that runs out, I'm going to remove the base from the platform, run that through my Gemini Junior. And this is where it got interesting for me, because I know I have my formula figured out. But when I pull this up, I got a good transfer, but the luster was like a little bit dull. And this is the one that really stumped me. I'm not sure exactly the reason that this was kind of a little more dull, but I decided to kind of explore it a little more. And I thought maybe this particular foil just needs a little bit different pressure. So I'm going to take out my cardstock shim and I'm just going to run it through with the foil and the vellum. Everything else stayed the same. And this time I knew there wasn't enough pressure. Once again, when I pulled this up, I could see that the plate hadn't really pushed that foil onto the vellum, and I got even worse results. So there was definitely not enough pressure. So I'm ruling out the fact that there's too little pressure. Now I wanted to show you the champagne versus the Aura. Same formula here, but you can see the luster on that Aura is just a little dull. And I went through a lot of experimenting with this process, and I never really figured out what the reason was for that. If you have ideas, let me know in the comments below. But I thought maybe there's a problem with this particular foil. So I tried it on tried and true Hammermill cardstock, ran it through like I do all of my things, and I got great results. It's not dull, it's nice and shiny, it's got all the luster of the foil. But I'm not getting these results on the vellum. So I really think that this particular foil just doesn't like vellum. I mean, I tried it again with the single cardstock shim, same results. I even thought, well, maybe this particular roll, there's something different about it. And I pulled out a different roll of this foil eventually as well. But in the meantime, I tried the Prism foil instead. It foiled great. And that is kind of where I'm like leading myself. So as I said, this video is kind of an exploration. I feel like I found the formula that works for most all of my foils. And for whatever reason, I just feel like I was struggling with the Aura foil. And so I brought in one of the Essential Nesting Diamonds foil plates, because this has a little more surface area on the foil plate. And I thought, well, I'll try this with the champagne and the vellum. I did my single cardstock shim. I ran that through my Gemini Junior, and I got great results with this as well. So I thought, if I can get great results with something with fine lines and a little bit thicker lines, I think I have my heat and my pressure pretty well figured out. So I went ahead and tried it with the Aura again. And once again, I just didn't get the best of results. So this is where I pulled out a brand new roll of the Aura foil. And I thought maybe this particular roll of foil, maybe there's something off about it. I've heard Leah mention in the past that she has had a roll of foil that just wouldn't kind of foil right. So I tried it again. Once again, I got good transfer, but the foil was a little on the dull side. So I kind of just resigned myself to understand that this foil and vellum, they don't get along. But the other foils and the vellum, they're getting along beautiful. So I'm going to continue along that path, and I'm just going to go with what works. Now, I did want to mention I did try playing with the heat and turning it down a little bit. I didn't get good results with that. So like I said, I just kind of came to the point where I was just like, this Aurafoil and the vellum, they just don't like each other. But I'm getting good results with all the others, so that's what I'm going to stick with. And you know, crafting sometimes is a matter of experimentation. And I have to say, when I do things like this, when I experiment, you know, things side by side, I learn a lot and I get a lot of practice. So don't be afraid to spend just a little bit of foil kind of experimenting. So now that we've kind of run through some experimentation with foil and vellum, I'm getting great results with everything except for that one particular foil. I'm going to go ahead and take one of these foiled images or foiled backgrounds and create a card. So I have flipped the vellum over, and on the back side, I'm using a little bit of coral reef and peach fuzz to do a little ink blending on the back of these peonies. Now, I like to just ink blend on the back side of the vellum, and if you wanted to use the coordinating stencils, you could absolutely do that. You would just need to use the reverse side of the stencil to use the stencils with the back side of the vellum. But I'm just adding some loose ink blending to these florals. I'm using a combination, as I mentioned, of coral reef and peach fuzz. And I'm using a mini blending brush just to add a little bit of peach fuzz in the middle of some of these open peonies. And this creates just this really beautiful ethereal look. And once I have my ink blending done, I'm going to take just a dry microfiber cloth and kind of buff the ink into the vellum. Now, dye ink will dry on vellum. It just needs a little more time. And sometimes if you're not getting the intensity of the color you want, you'll have to layer up a couple of ink blendings worth, if that's even a thing, of color on the back side of this vellum. So now I've grabbed my nesting circles hot foil plate, and I used the same Prism foil to foil that onto some white Hammermill cardstock, and I'm using the coordinating dies to die cut this frame out. So I'll run that through my Gemini Junior with both dies in place. So these are kind of cool because they come with both the outer and the inner die. Then I'm going to take that same inner die, so the smaller of the two dies, and I'm going to place it in the middle of a card front panel. So this measures 4 by 5¼ inches. I'm just kind of using my fingers to make sure I have it kind of centered up in the center of this card front. I'm going to hold it in place with a little bit of removable tape and run that through my die cut machine. So I will have this window on my card front where this vellum can kind of float. Now I'm taking the larger of those two circle dies, the one that I used to cut the outside of the frame, and I'm die cutting a piece from this vellum. And I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but I ended up using the vellum that I hot foiled with the Prism foil on it. So it's a silver holographic look. I just thought that would be something different because, you know me, I'm kind of stuck on my gold, but I just can't help it. I'm a gold girl. So everything I did from there on out, I coordinated the foils together. So I added a little bit of foam adhesive onto the back of my frame and attached the vellum to that so it will have a little lift. And then I'm going to take this framed piece and I'm going to attach it over the window of this card front. And I'm just using a really thin line of liquid adhesive, making sure that all lines up and pressing it down. Now I die cut some of the curvy leaves from some vellum, and I hot foiled and die cut one of the sentiments from the fancy script words from Pinkfresh Studio onto some white Hammermill cardstock. Here I'm using the word hello, but I ended up changing this out to the sentiment that says smile instead. And that little pink banner piece is actually from the Artistic Bows die set. I use this as a banner quite often. It's kind of just a fun way to add a little bit of emphasis to your greeting. And you can see here's where I switched it out for that smile greeting instead. Now I'm going to finish this card off with some of the new iridescent droplets from Pinkfresh Studio, and I'm just placing those onto the card front using a little bit of liquid glue, and I'm using my little wand, embellishment wand, to place those. And that finishes off my card for today. I absolutely love the look of foiling on vellum. It is so beautiful. This would make a gorgeous wedding card, a gorgeous bridal shower card. I think that this look, there's just nothing like it. It is so dreamy and magical. And so I hope that helps you kind of get a little confidence with foiling on vellum. There are a few things that make foiling work: the right heat, the right pressure, and the right paper. So if you're still not able to get great results on vellum, you may want to try a different brand of vellum. Now, as always, I will have links to the featured products used in this project in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure to check there. As always, thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here so you don't miss any of the paper crafting and card making video tutorials. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.